Hello, everyone, and welcome to MSP Ignition episode 19. We'll be getting started in just a couple of minutes. We still have a few other folks joining. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome again to MSP Ignition episode number 17. Today, we're continuing on our series in partnership with CharTec, and the focus of today's presentation is really making the most of your first appointment. So that first appointment you have with a prospect and how you can really have an effective and convert that meeting into a new business. On the call today, we have a few presenters. So myself, I'm Chief Marketing Officer at Axient. I look after product marketing, also digital marketing and campaigns here at Axient. I'm also happy to help out with anybody who has marketing questions throughout this call, or you feel free to follow up with me afterwards as well. And I'll hand things over to Tom to introduce himself.
Thanks, Angus. Pretty happy to put on MSP Ignition number 17. This is the second one in a series we're doing with CharTec and Nick Points. And MSP Ignition is something we came up with about a year ago. We've now done 17 direct MSP Ignition episodes. And the purpose of it is to bring to MSPs, actionable knowledge you can use to help grow your business. And from there, I'll hand it off to Nick.
Hey guys, thanks Angus, Tom for having me back again. I was really looking forward to it. For everyone on the webinar here, I'm the Director of Sales for CharTec. We are the training arm for the IT channel, based off of our own experience and knowledge and what we are doing as an MSP out here in California, our sister company. And so, actually we were talking with, I was talking with Tom at one of our last Academy events. And, this topic came up because, as Angus mentioned, we have a first appointment. We need to make the most of it, right? And so I'm really excited, to kind of work through this with you guys today.
Great. Thank you, Nick. Before we dive in, just a quick overview of Axient and eFolder. So as most of you know, Axient and eFolder is a provider of software in the cloud, and we focus on our business availability suite for complete protection across your data requirements. And here we have our Replicate and BRC solutions for cost-effective local recovery, and also with BRC, a phenomenal recovery experience and also automated runbooks. We also have Cloud Finder, which helps you with Office 365 backup and protection, and of course, Anchor, which is your solution for helping migrate on-premise file servers into the cloud. Nick, over to you.
All right, thanks, Angus. So, Angus, and I think you can attest to this, right? Especially, and Tom, you as well as having an MSP, getting leads isn't all that easy, right? For the most part. I mean, that's the core foundation, right? That's the first part of the of the sales process. So by, for sure, when we get a lead, we turn it into a first appointment. We want to make the most of it. For most MSPs, we're not getting new leads in every single day, right? So I want everyone on the webinar listening to start thinking about right now in your businesses, how are you generating leads? Obviously, referrals, repeat business, right? Those are the give me's and the lifeblood of most small to medium sized businesses. But let's think about some other stuff. I mean, we get call-ins, right? Maybe we're running AdWords or pay-per-click campaigns. Many of you guys are attending events, trade shows, networking groups, holding lunch and learns, doing webinars similar to this, for your local communities, hiring telemarketing services, right? To call down marketing campaigns that you have, ideally just to an appointment, right? To set an appointment for you. Maybe some of you have walk-ins. If you still have some retail side of the business, you can get walk-ins that way. Just plain old canvassing, right? Pounding the pavement, sending your reps out or yourself, going to new developments, getting involved in the community. Angus, being on the market, anything that any of the ways that you're seeing MSPs just generate leads from a marketing standpoint? Cover it.
No, I think you covered it effectively. I think, as our buyer behavior changes, of course, there's a lot more people searching online. So I think, increased focus on the digital side and making sure that you have the content and the backlinks to support capturing traffic through online search and in particular Google, and depending on your vertical, that might be Bing a little bit as well, is really important going forward. And we're starting to see kind of on the social media side, depending on where your personas are, you can have really high awareness and conversion, especially when it comes to retargeting, for example, Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing a lot of that traction as well here. So cool. Thanks, Angus. Now, regardless, okay, everyone again, you're thinking about where you're getting your leads from. Angus and I talked about a couple different avenues. Even if it's a referral, okay, when we're getting our leads in, we have to get them in the sales process. That's extremely important. No matter where we're getting our leads, we have to get them into the and work it the way through. A lot of times we skip steps, right? We get cocky. Maybe it is a referral from our best friend or one of our best clients, and it seems like a laydown. And then we start skipping steps, and then only at the end to find out, sure, they were unhappy with their current IT provider. That's why they were engaging with us. But once we give them the investment, right, to move forward with us, we suddenly find out that, well, they weren't that unhappy with them, right? And it's because we skipped steps. We failed to do our due diligence as part of the process. We get eager. We get excited. So here's a snapshot of our sales process. There's absolutely nothing fancy about it whatsoever. It's made up of closes that need to happen from the time we get this marketing message, right? How we get some interest, whether it's a call in, a pay-per-click, social media, an event, a walk-in, it doesn't matter, right? That's our first win. When someone says, hey, tell me more, I'm interested to learn about this, right? That's the first win we had, that first interaction. From there, we're looking to get an appointment, right? We want to sit knee to knee with this business owner. Presentation, that's when we ask for the check, right? We want to get the agreement signed. Worst case, we want to get a follow-up appointment for a later date and time to go out and get the agreement signed and pick up that check. Or if we can't get either one of those, we want to get a no, right? Those are one of our 3 closes. And I talked about this in the last webinar more in depth, on episode 15, I believe, Tom, that we went through. So if you guys haven't seen that, please go through. You can download that, and I actually break out the process quite a bit more. And in the back of our minds, I also want us to think about, why we have a sales process to begin with. I'm a firm believer we have 5 prerequisites that we need to have and have identified before we can land a managed services deal. Okay. And I'm gonna skim through these because we touched on them quite a bit in the last Ignition series. But the first thing we want to have, and why, again, this is why we have a sales process, because we need to acquire all of these prerequisites. And if you start looking at them as we going through, I want you to think about in your sales processes, when do we get to accomplish all of these? And the answer is not at the first appointment, right? So the first thing, do we have a recognized need? Sounds pretty self-explanatory, but you'd be surprised how often we get excited and we start talking about our solution, and we even give them pricing, and we haven't even identified any needs that they may have other than, hey, I'm unhappy with my IT guy or my current situation, whatever it may be. And this, you failed on this part when you get an objection like, hey, this looks, all this looks pretty good. Thanks for coming out and presenting to us, but you know what? This is kind of like more like a Cadillac offering. Designed for bigger companies. We're just a small business, man. We're more of like a Ford type deal, right? That means we failed to show a recognized need for a part of the solution that we were trying to sell on. Which is our second prerequisite. Do we have a solution based on the needs we've identified? Let's assume we get those. Do we have a solution to solve it? The answer is yes, we move forward. If not, we need to go back and do further discovery and kind of look at that. But the same principle here is, we have a lot of, so we're a big proponent, I know, Tom, you were too, on in standardization when it comes to your managed services offering across our networks, right? We standardize from client to client to client to client. A lot of different, profitability, efficiency, helps in the sales process, helps to market. So with that being said, another challenge we have is if we're adding parts of our solution that we haven't identified the needs to. And case in point, all of our managed services clients are 24/7 support, right? It's standard across the board. So that way my engineers, we never have to worry about, is it 501? Do we pick up the phone? Is there an after hours charge? Whatever, right? And it's pretty cool. I think it's a huge value for our clients to be able to call in anytime they want. Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, holidays, midnight, it doesn't matter. They still get support. However, if I'm presenting to a client that's Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and if I talk about how great our 24/7 support is, at the end of the presentation, they're going to say, hey, well, that sounds cool, but like I say, I'm an 8 to 5 shop. Can you go ahead and remove that piece? And then what does it lower my rate to is the next question they ask. If you even get lucky enough for them to ask that question. A lot of times they'll just say, okay, hey, thanks, I'm going to think about it. And in their minds, they're like, well, if this company's all doing all these great things and it's 24/7 and they're asking for this investment, I'm sure I can find it less somewhere else for an 8x5. So it's, in those cases, hey, we have support during your business hours. Then they may ask, well, hey, what happens if I call on a Saturday? And I will take care of you. Totally different conversation. So we have a viable solution. Number 3, does the value justify the cost? Does the investment we're going to ask them to make at the time we present outweigh, with the value, what we're going to bring forward, right? Does the perceived value justify the cost? Number 5, unless you like long sales cycles, we need to identify what urgent factors are happening in this business that are going to help us, once we start stoking those fires, help us to get the emotions up, get that urgency, so they're not thinking about it for a week, 2 weeks, 6 months, a year, right, to the point where we'd have to go back and do the whole process over again anyway. Extremely important. Number 5, who are we presenting to, right? If we're presenting to anyone other than the authority to buy, we're practicing. Just know that. So as part of our process, we need to understand how the decision-making process is made at this company. And a lot of times when I say the authority to buy, obviously we want the owner or executive who can sign the check, right? Authorize this agreement. But more often than not, owners and executives in a company, they don't make a decision without talking to their right-hand people. They're the leaders, managers within the organization. So if we know that's part of their process, when I say the authority to buy, I want the owner and the executives and right-hand people in this presentation, so I can try to close the day we present versus them need to think about it because legitimately they want to go talk to their team, because we're not going to tell them no. That'd be kind of slimy, right? So 5 prerequisites. So if you think about this, if we agree that we need to have all 5 of these checked off, there's a couple parts, if we think about it, in the process here. It's going to take the entire way to get these things checked off. The marketing message, no, we're never going to have it all the information we need right there. The first interaction, when someone says, tell me more, no, we're not going to have all those prerequisites. We may get a need, right? Something like that. Even at the first appointment, we're not there, right? So that's why I'm saying we don't skip steps within the process. And by the time that we go to present, We need to have all 5 of those prerequisites done, and it's part of our application, right, to present that we would use before going in front of the client there. Tom, anything to add on this?
Well, I think, yeah, my big thing is early on, I found that I would be so excited to get into a prospect's office and talk to them. And I'd often be pitching real hard, and then I'd find out I've been talking to the wrong person who does not have the authority to buy, and that I'd probably wasted some time there. So I would just tell everyone, make sure you know you're talking to the right person. Don't spend a lot of effort pitching, trying to sell to someone who's not going to make that ultimate decision.
Yeah, there's nothing worse.
And just to add to what Tom said, we have a similar challenge around sticking to the process. It's so important to establish that sales process across your marketing, sales, and even prospecting to be consistent, because we'll have sales folks go to events and get really excited about this hot lead, and then it actually ends up getting lost or not followed up on the right way. So having that consistent process that you can measure and refer to, just so you can make sure you're not losing any opportunities, is really, really key. And then when you get in, back to that previous slide, I think it's really important to align kind of your differentiated value to that need. If you know you can do something better than anybody else and you have a very targeted need, then those are the ones to really focus on and try to accelerate.
So in keeping that in mind, right, if we agree that we need a process, and I think everyone on here can agree that we need a process to be formalized, it needs to be trained to our team so everyone's following it, so we can have predictable results and or go back and find out why something didn't work and make the necessary adjustments. So we're going to work through this first appointment here in the process. So and let's just paint a picture here. Let's say that we had a telemarketer set an appointment for us, or an inside salesperson, or maybe we set it for ourselves. It doesn't really matter, but let's just say we've got the marketing message in the first interaction. Those things have we've won those, right? We got those closes. Now we're going to be conducting that first appointment. So something to keep in the back of our minds, okay? When we show up, there are problems that we're going to run into, okay, in this process. So the first thing, prospects lose curiosity. Okay, this is a big challenge we have, and Tom kind of mentioned a little bit earlier. We get excited and we start talking about, all these great things that we can do as a business to help other companies. We start giving them information, even give advice. Curiosity, guys, is the only thing that drives the sales process forward. Case in point, I want you to think back to one of your last presentations that you did. And up until the point where you gave them the price, right? You gave them the solution, they were calling you back. They would actually answer the phone when you called. They would respond to your emails. But it's, you spend all this time during the process, and then as soon as you give them the price and the solution, they go dark on you. Right? And then you get nervous. You're like, oh my gosh, hope Tom's okay. I haven't heard from him in 6 weeks. He said he's going to think about it. Right? Because there's nothing else left. The curiosity's gone. So it's very, very hard for us, because we get excited, okay? But we have to maintain curiosity, okay? The only time that we give the solution is when we're ready to close, okay? When we give a price, that means we're ready to close. And if you're following the process in the first appointment, that's not where it is. So we have to maintain curiosity. Understand that most businesses, the issues they have are going to be latent, okay? There's active needs. Hey, my server is down. Or, hey, I've got this problem in my network. Hey, my business has been interrupted. Hey, okay, those are active needs, and we love those, right? We take them, right? We're going to run through the process. But understand that when we're talking to people and during the appointment and even further into the discovery, most issues are latent, meaning they had an issue at one point in time. They may have found a workaround. They put a Band-Aid on it. It's just now become status quo, and it goes from that front of their mind, right, where they're thinking about it, and they kind of push it to the back of the brain because they got 4 or 5 other active needs at that time that they're worrying about. So understand when you say, hey, is everything running okay? And they go, yeah, it's been running like this for as long as I can remember, okay? That's because probably they had some issues that they put to the back of their mind, so it's our job to uncover that. Here's a good one. They want a price. How do we get through that? Come on, give me a price. I don't need to go through this whole process. You've done this before, right? We're 5 employees. You can't just give me a ball. Understand, once we give a price, we are closing. The curiosity will be gone. And if we haven't done our due diligence, if we haven't identified needs and we haven't presented yet, we're wasting our silver bullet there. We also need to understand this from the client and the prospect's perspective. They've been burned before by us as an IT industry. Okay, they've been overpromised, they've been underdelivered, they've had issues, they've had challenges, they've had people come in, throw pricing all over the place, give them confusing proposals, nickel and dime them to death. So they're going to be a little standoffish. I'm going to say it's probably slim to none your chances of walking into a business and them saying, oh my gosh, you're an IT company? I didn't know that this type of service existed. I've been just suffering for the last 8 years in my business, just hoping that things would change. Wow, this is cool. No, they've been burned before. Hey, the challenge is not only have they been before, but when we go in, and I say we as an industry, for the most part, we sound like everybody else. We have the same access to the same tools and products and solutions and services, and heck, we even dress the same, right? People wearing polo shirts and khaki pants. So if we look the same, we sound the same, the only thing left, all things being equal, for this prospect to make a decision on is going to be based on price. Okay, and if you take pride in being the Walmart of IT and just driving your prices down to bare minimum margins, this is probably not the best webinar for you to be on. Okay, and I know Tom can agree too. It's not, we don't take pride in wanting to be the lowest, right? We want to add the most value, and we're going to make sure that investment's according to the value we're going to be giving to the client, as well as make sure that we can make enough to support this client to the level they need to. And you think about this, when we sound the same, it's because we talk about what we do better. And it's like, hey, we have faster response time, we have smarter people, we hold certifications, blah, 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 blah. And again, they've heard this before. The prospect is probably thinking, yeah, the last guy I hired said that they had the fastest response time, they had the smartest people, but they were slow and they hired a bunch of idiots. And here's why I'm talking to you. And yet we're going to say the same thing. So we have to start differentiating ourselves outside of the products and the services we provide, because again, everyone on this webinar, we all have access to the same tools. So the process in which we conduct ourselves is where we're going to initially start breaking ourselves away from everybody else. So with that said, let's get into the process here in this first appointment. With our MSP, once a prospect has been identified and we've closed on that appointment, we do a couple things, right, to get some extra touches in before we actually show up. We have what we call a wow box. So this is a tiny little box that we have, and we just put like a tumbler in it, an Arc Technology, which is our MSP, tumbler, a coffee mug, mouse pad, pens, stress balls, some mints, just a tiny little package that we mail out, right, or have a driver drop off before the appointment, so that this prospect has something. I mean, think about it. Everyone likes getting packages, right? It's kind of cool. It's unique. Probably the other IT companies they've been engaging with didn't do that, right? So it's a way to differentiate ourselves and stand out. And I tell you, there's nothing cooler than when you show up to a first appointment and they have your coffee mug sitting right there on the desk, using the mouse pad you sent them. And now they have a little conversation, a little icebreaker, if you will. But this goes out before. And then we have one more touch before the actual appointment commences, and we have an appointment confirmation call. This call is not to say, hey, Tom, this is Nick with Arc Technology. Just want to confirm that we're still good for our appointment today, because a lot of times things happen. They may have forgot about it. Maybe it was booked a week before, and they're like, today. Yeah, it's today. Wow, it's just, can we move it out? All right, and can we move it out, and things start happening. So what we do is we have like our sales admin call, and it's simply just to say, hey, Tom, this is Susie at Arc Technology. I'm just calling to let you know Nick is left. He's on his way, and he'll be there for your appointment in the next half an hour. And then see what they say. And it's like, oh, dang, okay, it was today. All right, well, he's already on his way. You don't have to already leave, right? But it's one more touch, and just to let them know, hey, we're on our way, right? Set those expectations. Now, if you don't have somebody else to call for you, just you call yourself, but just use an accent. Okay, brush up on your Australian accent or whatever it may be, but it just needs to come from somebody other than the person that's showing up, right? The salesperson, because then it's a lot easier to say no. Tom, anything to add on this? Or Angus?
No, I think it's good. I would just say, yeah, try to make it so they can't push that out. Do things like the method you described. Don't make it so they can get out of that appointment. If you said it in the first place, then they made a commitment and they follow through with it just like you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And if something happens, which it does, there's a family emergency. Okay, cool. But at least it's, hey, we're on our way. You'll be there in 30 minutes. And then more often than not, it's a quick reminder form, and it's like, dang, okay, well, they're already on their way, right? Because we mutually agreed upon it. So,
yeah, exactly. What I'm saying is don't let them keep pushing it out. I've seen a lot of prospects. You put something in front of them already, and you just keep kicking the can out because they don't want to make a decision. At some point, you got to kind of force that decision.
Yeah, if you give them the option, the easy option, unless they have an active need, hey, my network is down right now and I can't process commission, or I can't run payroll, or I can't pay my vendors. Okay, right? But if it's something we just caught them on a really good marketing campaign, they're interested to learn more about a certain product or service, then it's a lot easier for them to say, can we do it next week? Can we do it next week? I'm really busy today. Well, every day they're busy, right? So don't let them kick that can down the road, as Tom said, because they'll do it every time. Okay, so we're going to break down this first appointment into a couple different things. We're going to have our greeting. Okay, there's a couple of scenarios that are going to happen when you sit down. Okay, so we're going to work through that. Then the second thing is I want us to make sure that before we show up that we are always armed with what we call diagnostic questions. Okay, these are stuff that we have, and these are going to help us qualify this prospect further. Now, the characteristics of a diagnostic question are they're narrow in scope. I'm not asking open-ended questions, right? Yes or no, up or down, left or right. They allow us to quickly and easily probe the status of the account. Meaning, do they meet our SMAC recipe, right? Are they in a certain geographic area, vertical, who am I speaking with, number of employees, whatever your recipe for success is, they're going to allow us to quickly and easily probe that status, okay? I want them to be easy to ask. Okay, we shouldn't stumble and bumble. They should be easy to ask. They should be even easier for the person that we're asking to answer. And in many cases, offer a choice. Again, yes, no, left, right. And then more importantly, during this first appointment, these diagnostic questions that we get, we're going to get some information back that allow us to create opportunity to expand our dialogue once we get into discovery mode. Okay, but not until then. Tom, what was one of your go-to questions, your diagnostic questions?
What is your data management strategy? And they're going to want to have a long conversation around that because they don't want to get fined and they want to understand what the ramifications are and how you can help them as well.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment on what Angus said. The business continuity is a big piece. I remember years ago, I asked a prospect, it ended up being my largest client, what are you guys going to do when you have like a major problem here, maybe the sprinklers go off or something like that, and they don't really have any plan at all. And we put in a full data protection plan that included disaster recovery, could spin those servers up in the cloud. And interestingly enough, about a year into the relationship, that exactly happened. Fire sprinklers went off in the server room, doused all the servers, killed them, and brought them back up in the cloud. So I like to ask people, what are they going to do when something really happens bad? Do they have any kind of plan? And explain to them what we bring to them beyond just doing the regular managed services and maintenance is we bring a plan for going forward what's going to happen when those disasters do happen.
Yeah, and Nick, there's a question that came up earlier. I can go ahead and answer, and maybe you can add to. But the question is, this MSP is hesitant in doing digital with AdWords and marketing campaigns, and so they end up just doing cold calling, which isn't effective. And my answer to that is I think it's important to have a balance between events and outbound. Outbound for me is emails, webinars, also cold calls, and then inbound, which would be the AdWords and your digital campaigns. And the big difference is, from a cold calling perspective, you're looking at 60, 70, 80 calls before you get an appointment. However, if you're able to do an effective campaign or an effective inbound campaign even, then your calls to appointments can go down to 20 or 30 because you've already expressed what the problem is and how you can solve that problem in a differentiated way. And that prospect has raised their hand and said, look, I'm interested in the advice that you're offering and how you can help solve it. So as a person then reaching out to that warm lead, they're going to be a lot more interested in talking to you. So you've already done some pre-qualification. But at the end of the day, you're going to be a lot more productive and cost-effective taking an approach which is more balanced.
Yeah, Angus, completely agree. You gotta have a bunch of sticks in the fire, guys, at all times. Cold calls suck. If anyone tells you otherwise, I don't know. But again, we have to make outbound dials. I'm not saying don't do them, but try to make them lukewarm, right? Tie them into a campaign, have your call activity assigned after they've already received a couple marketing digital, maybe it's a direct mail, whatever your campaign is. So at least they're familiar with you, your company, your brand, or have seen it before. Try to make them as lukewarm as possible is my suggestion on that, as opposed to grabbing a list and just dialing for dollars. That's a burnout. Okay. After we have our diagnostic questions, we're going to need to close, okay? We're going to need to close this appointment. We're going to need to close on discovery. So we want to give them a couple options. People like options on how they are going to move forward. Both of them will be in our favor, okay? I'll show you how we position that, all right? And ultimately, again, we got to always keep in mind what our next close is. And in this case, from the appointment, we need only thing we're there to do is close the discovery, guys. How much weight has now been lifted off your shoulders as a salesperson to know, hey, my only objective at a first appointment is just to pique some curiosity, establish stability, and close on discovery. Wow, right? I'm not worrying about our solution or pricing or objections yet because we don't even know. We haven't even got to the point where we can identify. So keep that in mind. Now, before we show up, okay, we've got to do some research. The last thing you want to do is show up in a company and be like, oh, Shane, nice building you have here. What do you guys do? All right, you'd be kicked out. It's faster than you walked in. So I challenge you guys, right? Social media is huge nowadays. Get on Facebook, LinkedIn, Google searches of the company, of the person you're meeting with, okay? Ask other colleagues. Hey, go meet with XYZ company. I'm talking to this person. Does anybody know them? You'll be surprised what you get back with. Okay, now I'm not saying we're going to be stalkers, right? Don't go on and ask them to be your friend and connect with them yet. That's kind of weird, especially because you haven't met them yet. But use social media to your advantage because you may find you have a mutual connection, right? Maybe you guys went to the same school, you're in the same alumni association, you belong and contribute to the same charities, whatever. Okay, this is just information so we can be credible and give us conversation starters when we show up.
And just to add to what Nick said, a little trick tip you can use is for all your existing clients, make sure to connect with them on LinkedIn because they could be connected to other people or other clients that are prospects. And so they could give you that soft or warm introduction.
Absolutely.
I'll sort of add to that, Nick. A couple things I did is I looked at the website, see if they had any testimonials, see who those were by. I would often, if we were in the same county, call the chamber of commerce I worked with and see if they had an account there. And if they worked with anyone in particular there, I tried to find that common connection, find someone, especially if it was a friend of mine who knew them, and give me a little intel before I did anything further.
Yeah, absolutely. This isn't like touch football, guys. We're playing tackle. So any advantage we can get, right, to further this, I mean, we need to be taking the initiative to do that. Just like Tom mentioned, right? Investigate their website. Look at all their different pages. Look at their testimonials. Find out if you have, maybe mutual clients even, or like you say, associations. When you're starting to get into the point where I want us to think about verticals, okay, whether you have a vertical focus or not, okay, we need to be somewhat credible when we're going to meet with these companies. So I'm going to challenge you to get on the internet and know what the top 2 line of business applications are for the particular vertical you are meeting with, and then what version is the most recent. And I'm saying this because you'll show how it comes up in the conversation. I'm not saying you need to know everything and the features and how it works. Just be knowledgeable enough to know what tools they use. Right? I mean, because think about it, okay? I'm talking to a bunch of IT companies here. How credible would I be if I showed up to an appointment and was saying, so guys, you guys do IT. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys get a lot of challenges, and I mean, do you have a particular way that in which you track these and like a spreadsheet, or I mean, how does that work? Versus, hey, so you guys are an IT company. So guys, you guys do more break fix work, or are you more moving on the managed services? Oh, I do managed services. Oh, really? Well, are you using a PSA like ConnectWise, AutoTask, or TigerPaw? Oh, you're on ConnectWise. A little bit more credible, right? Now I don't have to know everything that's in there, but immediately they understand, okay, this guy does know a little bit about my industry. So understand, you get industry knowledge, know what potential problems they have, how they make money, how they lose money, are there peak seasons. If you're working for a CPA or in a tax firm, they cannot be down during tax season. So if we're talking around that time frame, and one of our questions is like, so hey, we need to do a server migration. How does it look to be down this Friday? Dude, they're gonna think you're nuts. So we need to understand, the different issues and concerns these particular verticals may have. Angus brought up compliance earlier, getting fined, right? So anything that we can be aware of is going to help us have a valuable business conversation with these people, which is what we're going to need to focus on. Okay, hope that makes sense for everybody. And again, if you have questions, because we're going to be going pretty quick here, shoot them into Angus. We'll make sure we get back to you afterwards if we can address them here during the time we have today. All right. So when we're in now, we're going to go over some stuff that we want to ask, but there's some definite things that I want to get in your minds that we do not want to ask, right? Because our goal here is to establish credibility, and there are some questions that we can ask that can completely work in our opposite favor. So here's some non-credible tech questions, and some of you may laugh, okay, as we go through this, but there's a reason I have them up here, because people ask them. So let's talk about them. First thing, hey, do you have a firewall? Yeah, they have one. It's purple. It says Linksys, and they bought it at Walmart. Let's move on, okay? Do they have antivirus? Yeah, I'm sure they do. They probably have multiple different versions. They're all consumer grade, and none of them are up to date, right? Do you have a spam stuff? Same thing. What server do you run? Do you think that's easy for most people sitting in a small to medium-sized business that aren't IT companies to answer? Okay, no. Right? Unless we're talking to a director of IT or an IT manager, they don't know. And if we're asking questions that they don't know, and we're doing multiple versions of that, well, what hard drive capacity do you have left? When's the last time you defragmented your disks? They're going to shut down on you. And you've lost them when they say, how much longer is this going to take? Because you're asking them stuff that's not relevant to them. They don't care about it. Right? Do you filter your internet? Doesn't really matter. Right? We're going to find anything that we're going to find out by doing our discovery, running a rapid fire tool report, or doing the technical assessment. We don't need to ask. It's a wasted question. For the most part, they don't care. They don't have the answer for it. And it does absolutely nothing for us to establish credibility and move ourselves further in the process. Okay? We're talking about continuity. Have you heard of BDR? This is an absolute horrible question to ask. And here's why. A, they probably know what that acronym is. Probably means something else in their vertical market. So when they say, no, I haven't, tell me about it. What is that? Then we start talking about solution, right? We start bursting bubbles. They lose emotions. We talk about how great our backup. Oh, you haven't heard of BDR? Well, let me tell you what. It's a full continuity appliance. It has a local backup, local virtualization capabilities here at the company. And then every night it's going to send a secure image up to the redundant data centers in the cloud. And so no matter what's happening or disasters, you always have your data, and it's done automatically. You're going to love it, guys. Make sure you're at our presentation next week. And then what happens? You show up to your presentation, you start talking about your continuity slide and how great it's going to be and challenges. And the emotion that they had when you first told them is gone. They're like, yeah, we already know about that, right? Or even worse, and I'm sure some of you have experienced this, you show up and you hit on your BDR slide, you're all excited, and they're like, whoa, hey, man, you know what? I was so excited after you talked to me last week about this. I actually researched it, and I just bought one. And then our whole presentation shot. So we got to be careful with that. We don't want to let the cat out of the bag, guys. And it does nothing for us, right? Who cares if they heard about it or not? We're going to tell them about it if there's a need for it. Same thing, guys. We have non-credible business questions. First things first, are you happy with your IT guy? Who cares? I want you to have your mindset that if they do have an IT person, that they're in love with them. It's their best friend. It's their neighbor. And now it's your job to displace them. Okay, going with that mindset. And realistically, if they're meeting with you, they're probably not all that happy. So let's just move it out of the way. Is everything running okay? They're probably going to say, yeah. Again, they don't have an active need. Yeah, everything's running fine. And then you're like, are you sure? Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure. Really? Yeah, no, everything's running okay. Well, gee golly, why am I meeting with you? Well, I don't know. I mean, the person on the phone has, mentioned some stuff. I always just want to kind of see what's new in the industry. Hey, tell me about your company. And then we start throwing up on them, telling them about how great, we do backup and disaster recovery and blah, 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 blah. Okay, are you scared of technology? That's just silly. Okay, do you know a lot about your network? Answer is A, no, and B, they don't care. It's a wasted question. You want a fast computer? Shoot, no. Tom, give me a slow one. I want you to throttle that bad boy. Right? Is productivity important to you? Again, it's silly, but a lot of times if we're not prepared with our diagnostic questions, we start asking things like this. No, actually, no. Productivity, absolutely not. I take pride in paying my employees to waste time. In fact, if I see them at their desk for more than 45 minutes at a time, I have them stand up and go stand outside in the parking lot and go vape. Is profitability important to you? Again, that's another silly one. And it's silly if you're also talking to a non-for-profit and you ask them, is profitability important to you? Okay, it goes both ways. Have your telco, this is an important one. Have your telco bills been audited? The reason I don't want to ask this is because as part of our process as an MSP, we do it anyway. It's part of our discovery. Before we leave, we get the phone and internet bills. So again, anything that we're going to do anyway, I don't need to ask the question because we're going to find out. Okay. Tom, anything to add here?
Yeah, my big thing is to remember that the people you're talking to are not technologists in any way. They probably don't think the tech is that cool. The reason why they have you in there is they have a business problem. And focus in on that and what that business problem is, identify it, let them talk a lot about it, and then talk about how you have a business solution for them.
Yeah. People want to open up and share about what's important to them. And it's not going to be technology, right? I mean, think about it from a real world application, guys. I'm sure everybody on here has either gotten a taxi or got an Uber before, right? And think about the last ride that you were in. When you got into that vehicle, did you ask the driver what year, make, and model the car was? How many miles it had on it? When's the last oil change? What was the tire pressure? No, you don't care. It's, hey, how quickly can you get me from point A to point B? Right? Same thing with our cable, right? If you have your little DirecTV or cable box, that little black thing that sits there, you put your remote at, do you know what's in it? No, you don't care. It's like, how many, do I get the NFL Network? Yes or no? Right? It's got to think about what's important to them. And in this situation, it's their individual roles and it's their business. They don't care about the technology behind it. It's the vehicle. Okay. And we have some killer filler words. I'm going to start speeding through here, guys. So again, if you have questions, let me know. Killer filler words. These are things that we tend to do if we're pausing and we're thinking in between questions, right? Cool, awesome, perfect, fantastic, absolutely wonderful. That's great, super. You got to be careful with these because if you use one of these in the wrong time, it's gonna destroy credibility and kill empathy. As an example, maybe they're telling you about bit continuity, and they're saying, yeah, you know what, we had to take backup and our server crashed and it took us 4 days to restore because we had to restore from 7 different tapes and, we lost 3 clients. It was an absolute nightmare. Also, tell me a little bit more about, and they're like, what? So these are going to be the hardest things for you to kind of remove from your vocabulary, but be conscious of this. All right, let's get down to the first appointment here. So we have a conversation flow that we use and we train our salespeople on. Okay, and so you're going to hear Tom and I go through this. And Tom, so you're going to be the salesperson, okay? And we're going to work through these different this scenario through this first appointment. And guys, just so you know, Tom is just going to read what is on written here, and then we're gonna break, we're gonna pause, and we're gonna kind of work our way through it and make some tweaks and adjustments. Okay, but to start off here, when we show up. Okay, we're going to have our opening scenario. Now, scenario 1 is, hey, the conversation is going really well. It may be one-sided conversation is going on forever, or even if it's not going well, right? We got to be able to convert this back to where we're in control and we get to business, because we've all been in those scenarios where we hit it off, right? Maybe we did do our research and we had a mutual connection, and so we spent 35 minutes talking about golf, or talking about our mutual friend and making, tell embarrassing stories about them. And the next thing you know, you get a knock on the door. Hey, Mr. CEO, your next appointment's here. And now we spent 35. We wasted our opportunity because we didn't want to be rude, right? Or we were just engaging with a conversation. We got to understand why we were there, and we got to be able to convert it back. The second scenario is you get those people where you walk in and they go, okay, hey, you got 15 minutes, shoot. What do you guys do? Right? So we got to be able to convert that one in too, because we don't want to talk about ourselves, our people, our process, solutions, or pricing at this point in time. Okay? So with that in mind, Tom, let's go through scenario number 1, if you wouldn't mind.
Great. Well, Mr. CEO, I can only imagine how busy you are and how precious your time is. So I really appreciate you setting aside a little bit of time for me. I am prepared today to give you some details about who we are and the value we bring to our customers. But rather than just give you a generic pitch, can I ask you a couple questions about your company to make sure I give you relevant information?
All right. So pause. Tom put in a special word there, right? Questions. We just want to say specifics. Can I ask you a couple specifics about your company first? Okay. So here, we did a couple things here. Let's say the conversation was going well. Tom converted it. He did it tactfully. Hey, look, I know how it's about me, right? He said how precious my time was. So he's really kind of stroking my ego. And then I'm thinking, yeah, dude, you are lucky I'm getting, giving 10 minutes to you, right? And then there's a magic question in there I want you guys to all write down. Can I ask you a couple specifics about your company first? Okay, this can also work. Can I ask you a couple specifics about your continuity planning? Can I ask you a couple specifics about your security environment? Can I ask you a couple specifics about your sales process? Can I ask you a couple specifics about how you're generating new leads? Whatever that may be, that's the magic question. Okay. Now, the same thing's going to happen in scenario number 2. Again, now Tom joins in my office, and I just say, hey, Tom, yeah, I heard some great things about you, man. Tell me about your services and your company. Go for it, Tom.
Mr. CEO, I did come prepared today to discuss all the services we offer here. But before I get too far into it, can I ask a couple specifics about your company to make sure I give you relevant information?
Do you think this person wants irrelevant information? No, and again, it's about them, right? You got to think about it. This is not a we, it's not us. It's about them at this point in time. Right, so hey, Tom did a great job. I satisfied the question. Hey, I'm more than happy to prepare to talk about everything that we got going on here. But look, just to make sure this conversation is even relevant for you or your business, can I ask you a couple specifics about your company first? And they will say yes. Okay. So now, that's the opening scenario. Now we've got permission to move into diagnostic questions. Now we got to qualify and establish some credibility. So Tom, go ahead and again, just guys, he's going to read it as written. So we're going to do a little bit of back and forth here. So, Tom, go ahead, hit number 1. So let's say, yep, go ahead, Tom.
Besides this location, are there any other remote locations?
So here's another. So that's a valid question, right? But let's imagine now that we've done a little bit of research, okay? So a way we can maybe rephrase that to add a little bit more credibility would be, hey, so Tom, besides the location here in Bakersfield and the remote location up north in Fresno, are there any other locations that you have that weren't listed on your website that I need to be aware of? Again, I'm getting the same information, but it's a little bit more credible. All right, Tom. Yeah, I know. I have, we have just the one location here in Bakersfield and the one up north in Fresno.
Okay. Approximately how many people in each location?
Ooh, let me see. I have roughly 10 here in Bakersfield, and then I have another 12 in Fresno and looking to hire 3 more at that location.
Great. Are you primarily 8 to 5? Monday through Friday, or do you have extended hours and days?
Okay, is that good to know, right? We need to understand what their business. Now, let's assume that I'm talking to we're in front of a tow company. Okay, we're meeting our prospect is first appointment with the tow company. If we ask that question just like that, it would kill our credibility. All right, they'd be like, no, Tom, I only tow vehicles that break during business hours. And they look at you funny. So another way in those situations, let's say we are working with someone that we know is around the clock service, but we still want to know, do they have office personnel running, or is it skeleton crews? Is it automated? Is it manufacturing? There's no one on computers, whatever it may be. We need to understand this, but we can ask it a little bit more credibly. So, and again, let's assume it's a tow company. So, hey, Tom, besides the obvious of our tow truck drivers, towing vehicles as they break and as they're needed around the clock? Do we have any office personnel that work around the clock as well? And then I would say, yeah, you know what, we do. Tom, actually, I have our dispatchers. We run split shifts. We run 3 different shifts to always make sure we have somebody here. And then we always have somebody that's in our impound lot, doing the intake and release of vehicles as needed. Okay, so again, let's go number 4.
Switching gears here, do you guys run Connect Tow or Auto Tow version 14, or have you migrated to the newest version?
So I'm stretching there a little bit, right? Connect Tow, Auto Tow, but there's where the line of business application comes in. Hey, are you guys using Connect Tow or Auto Tow? And then I'm going to say, yeah, we use Connect Tow, Tom. Now hit me with that second part.
Version 14, or have you migrated to the newest version?
You know what, Tom? Don't get me started, man. We tried. Okay, we brought in consultants. It was an absolute nightmare. There's some things we want to take advantage of in version 14, but you know what? We are or version 15, but now, man, we're still stuck on 14. Now, immediately, Tom is like getting on the edge of his seat because Tom wants to find out a little bit more what's going on with that, right? We're like, oh my gosh, what's the problem? Let's uncover it. We're not there yet. Remember, this is the only thing we're here to close on is the discovery. Once they pay us, right, in the form of they give us their they hire us to do a discovery, then that's when we care about finding out more of this information. But this is a perfect example where we put a pin in it because now it gives us the ability to, again, create that dialogue further in the sales process. Okay, so go ahead, Tom, keep going, number 5.
So besides the obvious Microsoft applications, are there any other applications that you guys run?
So again, great question. So here's the deal. If you just ask a company or the person you're sitting in for what applications do you run, they're going to tell you Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook. Okay, we know that. Don't give them a layup. Okay. So again, besides the obvious Microsoft applications, Tom, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, are there any other core applications you run within your business besides Connect Tow? And I would say, yeah, we got QuickBooks or whatever. Okay. But don't give them a layup. If we know with certainty that they're doing something, let's just go ahead and take that away from them. All right, keep going, number 6.
Do you allow employees to bring in their own devices, or do you supply them?
It's a mix, Tom. I have some that I've provided, laptops and cell phones for, and then others use their own. So really, at this point, it's kind of all over the board. Okay.
Your backups, are they current?
So I'd say, I hope so. They better be.
With that being said, do you have a dedicated IT person, or does another employee handle those tasks?
Again, good question to ask, right? We want to know what we're walking into. Have you ever had those awkward scenarios where you show up and all of a sudden you're talking with the IT person, right? Or you meet with them and they're like, oh, that's weird. You know what, Tom? No, I don't have anyone dedicated to it. Actually, my office manager, Mary, she's been the go-to person for the last couple of years. But she's getting burned out, and I'm asking a lot of her at this point in time. So part of the reason why I'm wanting you guys to come out here. All right, so those diagnostic questions, and they happen and they're quick. Okay, obviously we're pausing and we're talking and going back and forth on them, but these diagnostic questions, you don't have to have 100 of them. I would say no more than like 7 or 8. Okay, just enough to kind of get a lay as qualify them a little bit, and then we got to transition. Okay, and I like to do something what we call hold on here. Go ahead and read. We got to summarize now. I want to start transitioning to where we can get to our value proposition, ultimately close. So go ahead and summarize here, Tom.
So besides the obvious of looking to reduce response time and keeping their servers and workstations running to minimize downtime, are there any other concerns that keep you up at night with your technology?
All we're doing here, guys, is throwing a net out. And you know what? They may say something like, no, everything's good. Or I would say, you know what, Tom? Yeah, something else I'm always seeing in the media right now. There's data theft and ransom, and these are happening to Fortune 100 companies. And I'm not investing the type of money there by any means in security. So that definitely has been on the top of my mind as of late. And heck, now that you mentioned the whole backup thing, I'm starting to think about that.
Mr. CEO, if you're concerned about mobile device management, backups, and security planning, solving those problems are really our core business. Should I take a couple of minutes and explain how you might be able to benefit by what we do?
Guys, what do you think they're going to say? We haven't given them anything yet. They're curious still. Yeah, absolutely. Tom, go ahead.
First, let me say this, because there's so much noise in the marketplace. You have probably been getting inundated by people coming in here wanting to pitch their services, using all kinds of IT jargon and pricing all over the map, to the point where it can get pretty confusing about which of these vendors can actually help you versus which ones are wanting to just take your money and leave.
Okay, pause. So I call that addressing the elephant in the room, because we know this is happening. Okay, IT companies come in, they do like a 5-minute assessment, they try to count the number of employees, and they give them a ballpark price, they shoot from the hip, they start, going all these different options, like I can do this and this and this, and here's our premium platinum, and here's the platinum plus, and it's confusing. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it out. I'm going to throw this whole industry under the bus, okay? And the prospect sitting there whether they say it or not, they're going, yeah, you're right. Man, I got 3 guys that I met with last week, and I can't make heads or tails of what they were talking about. Now we're starting to stand out from everybody else. But I threw the industry under the bus, okay? We need to bring, and that includes us, so we need to bring ourselves out. Go ahead, Tom, get to our value prop.
But at ABC Technology, our approach is a bit different. What we like to do is come in and see the lay of the land, just like a doctor who doesn't know anything about his patient until he uses tools like x-rays, scanners, MRIs, and maybe some blood work. We need to find out the state of your network and spend a little time seeing how it's constructed. Look, rather than just talk about this in a generic sense, might I suggest one of these 2 options?
Okay, perfect.
Option 1.
Now, well, hold on, Tom. So real quick, guys, and the reason I use a doctor is because most people understand that. A doctor's not going to prescribe you a prescription without running some tests first. That's malpractice. So I'm getting ahead of them saying, well, come on, just give me a budget, right? Just give me a roundabout number. Is a doctor going to give you a roundabout prescription? No. So I'm getting ahead of that. Now, this is also something that you can tailor towards the vertical you were meeting with, right? Just like you, Mr. Architect, before you submit, building plans, you're going to go out and you're going to do a site assessment. You're going to look and you're going to do some soil sample tests. You're going to see where the electrical's coming in, where the water main, where the plumbing, to make sure before you design a building that it's going to meet the specs of the location. Just like you, Mr. Attorney, before you decide to bring on a new case, you're going to go out, you're going to talk to the witnesses. You're going to look at the incident reports. You're going to go and view the location and where the incident happened. I hope you guys see where I'm going with that. So doctor, everybody knows, but as you get more comfortable with this, make it, again, appealing to them. Talk about their vertical. Okay, give me my options, Tom.
Option 1, my sales engineer will come in with his network analysis software and take an in-depth look at your network. Just a few of the things that he will produce for you will be a risk report, full network assessment report, a detailed asset report, as well as a network site diagram. Your end product will look like something like this.
Boom, you drop your rapid fire report or whatever, that thud factor. Go ahead.
The cost for our company to perform this will be $2,500.
So pause right there. That's a pretty hard close, right? Tom is saying, hey, for $2,500, I'll go ahead and tell you if there's anything wrong with your business. Okay? But here's the deal. I'm putting a value to what we are doing. Okay? I'm not doing a free assessment. Okay? So, but here's that $2,500. So I'm puckering a little bit. I'm sitting in my chair. I'm sweating. Okay? So Tom, give me my other option.
Option 2. The second more popular option will be to allow my senior engineer and myself to complete a network analysis, as well as have a couple of minutes with each employee to see how they use technology on a day-to-day basis. Then give us an hour to go over an executive summary of your network with you and the officers of the company. We will outline the good, bad, and ugly, as well as go over our services, if there is a need for them. For this, we do not charge anything at all. Which option do you prefer?
Good, now he closed. So here's what I want to take away from this really quick, guys. Option number 2 is not free. Okay, I am taking a $2,500 or whatever number it is, because this needs to scale for the organization. It may be $2,500, it may be $15,000, it may be $10,000. Okay, you need to make it a number that scales with the size of the organization. But what I'm saying is, hey, give me an hour with you and your team. Okay, the authority to buy, and in lieu of the $2,500, we're going to give them a verbal presentation, which is our sales presentation. Okay, and this does a couple things for us. This helps at the end when they go, hey, can you just go ahead and can I leave this material with me to go ahead and take and then price shop you, right? That's what they're going to do. We've already set the expectations. You know what? Tell you what, if you want to, you can go ahead and cut a check for $2,500 and I'll give you this plus the diagrams we have. because we've already set these expectations, right? I'm getting ahead of these objections later in the sales cycle, but I'm giving a value of $2,500 for an hour of their time. So now I've already got my presentation. So I'm already ahead. Cool. I'm going to book the discovery because they're going to take option number 2. Okay. If they take option number 1, it's going to be a one-off, and that probably means you didn't ask enough for the investment. Okay. So and really I want option number 2. Option number 1, you have to give them a deliverable with pricing, part numbers, the solution they can then go off for bid or whatever they need to do. So I want them to take option number 2. All right. And then guys, we close on the discovery there. So I'm going to go, Tom, you know what? Are you kidding me? Yeah, I'm going to go with option number 2. And then Tom's going to schedule accordingly based on availability. All right. And I know we're right on time here, guys. So I hope you can kind of see how, and again, we went pretty quick through this, but now we got the discovery, right? We still haven't given them anything. We haven't told them about our solutions or our pricing. We still have curiosity. And now the next phase in the process, we got to get them to open up and share. We start expanding on those diagnostic questions. We start talking to the individual employees of the company, getting them to talk about their own selfish desires, their own problems that they face in the form of this business. And always keep in the back of our mind that this is not about us. Okay, we need to make it about them. Do not discuss our solutions. We are not there yet. And all we need to focus on is what our next close is. In this case, it was discovery. Discovery, we want a closing time to present. Once we have our presentation, we got one of those 3 closes I talked about. Check, follow up, or no. So I want you guys to think about this. Okay, we got some choices. Okay, that you can make. If your sales process, if you're crushing appointments, you're getting the discoveries, you're bringing on more clients, you know what to do with. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Okay, all right. If you're hitting your goals, if you're not, then doing what you're doing now is not getting you where you need to be. We need to adjust it. Okay, so you can self-study. There's tons of online resources and valuable information out there. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of content. But the challenge is you're gonna you don't have the time to do it. Let's just be real. And B, it's very hard for you to, when you do have some time to sift through all the information, to try to find something that you didn't know, and then try to apply it in your business. You can also hire general training companies, right? Maybe sales organizations. And, getting professional training is great, but the challenge is when you're working with like a generic type training company, they have to appeal to a broad market, right? So the things that they're going to train you on is the same things they're training car companies, manufacturing, they're training, all across the board, which then you need to take those processes, you need to tweak them, evolve them, make them fit what we do as an IT service provider. Then we're kind of going self-study, okay? You guys can also, engage in the CharTec training academies. Tom was just out to the last one we had. These are great. These are out at our facility in Bakersfield, California. And this is our MSP. And we spend 3 days, guys, and we just train. You'll be out here with 100 plus other MSPs, and we just open up our business. And we're going to train on all of our best practices, our processes for how we run the company from top to bottom. Marketing, sales, service and delivery, company culture, HR, finance, you name it, we're a complete open book. Now, our next academy is December 5th through 7th. Okay, there are limited seating. If your CharTec members already on here, you guys have unlimited access for your entire company. You just need to register, book your seats, and get out here. It's going to be a phenomenal event. For those of you who are not, we have guest passes, one-time guest passes to attend our academy at $895 a seat. But working with Tom and the MSP Ignition program, they subsidize this for you. So we have a special offer, $575 per guest pass for you guys to attend as a result of engaging here in the program. And then here is the registration, the landing page specific for you guys that'll reduce that number. So, all right, Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. I just want to say thank you to everyone for attending MSP Ignition, and please be on the lookout for our next email coming out soon with our next piece of content.
Yeah, and to answer one of the last questions, we will be sending out a link to this webinar shortly, and if there's any other questions, we will answer those as well offline. Thanks again for everybody attending, and thanks, Nick, for the great content. As we've heard, it's really important to have that standard methodology on the sales side that you can reference against and measure yourself against know what's working and what's not working. And I think that Nick and CharTec have presented a good example of how you improve your overall business. All right, thanks again, and talk to you on the next MSP Ignition.
Thanks, guys.